So we have a couple things to cover today. First of all, I'm going to talk about negative repetitive behavior cycles, and they happen all the time. I'm sure you know a little bit about them, at least you will once you've heard me talk a little. So again, I'm Sue Simmons. I am the founder of Equinox Family Consulting and the creator of the Better Behavior Bootcamp for ASD moms. And you know the drill. I'm on a mission to give you back your power. I want to teach you the skills to manage difficult behavior so you can feel more successful as a mom and build a more positive and loving connection with your ASD child. You know, difficult behavior is just horrible, right? It takes away all the enjoyment of being a parent. Thank you for the love. And I want to help you. I want to help you get beyond that, and you absolutely can. All right, so negative behavior cycles, repetitive negative behavior cycles. I'm going to give you an example of one that occurred daily between my son and I. And so this is kind of a classic. Pardon me. So, of course, like all of our kids, they have to work uber hard to keep their shit together during the day. Way, 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 way harder than we do, right? We think we have it hard. They have it much harder. So my son would come home from school and he would be not a raging bull, but a very, very, very unhappy camper. So he would, oh, by the way, I put a very poorly done graphic of this in on the Facebook page as a post. So you can find that there. So apologies for the rough work, but just what it is, right? Let's not let good be the enemy of perfection, right? So, okay, so he would come in the door and his first words would be, "Mom, I want a snack." And of course I'd be yelling from the other end of the house, "Empty your backpack. You know, did you eat your lunch?" And he'd go, "I want a snack." And I'd go, "I'm not getting you a snack if you're going to talk to me like that." As soon as I said that, "I'm not getting you a snack if you're going to talk to me like that, you know, don't be rude to me." I'm thinking in my head, you know, I worked all day, you know, blah, 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 I did this around the house, and you ungrateful little, you know what, right? That's what we think, isn't it? And so I would say that, and then guess what would happen? Boom, meltdown. Meltdown, right? Of course, everything would go to hell in a handbasket from that point forward. The evening would be brutal, just brutal, because, you know, I would be mad. He would be super pissed off at me. He won't have touched his homework. So it would just be hell. And then my husband would come home from work, and as usual, I'd have my Alice Cooper, you know, mascara running down my face, right? So lovely. And it was just shit, right? It was shit. And there's no other way to describe it. And pardon my language, I hope this doesn't offend anyone, but that's exactly what it was. So what was going on there, right? What was going on? Well, number one, I didn't clue in that this was a negative, repetitive cycle, right? And number two, when my son came in this fashion and said what he said, I would take it personally. And it's really hard not to. You have to be really mindful in order to not take things personally. Negative repetitive behavior cycles, they happen between us, they happen between our kids, they happen between us and our spouses. So what kind of negative behavior patterns do you get into with your child? Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. So what kind of negative behavior patterns do you engage in with your child without even realizing it? We have triggers that occur over and over and over. I read somewhere that there are 9 or maybe 10 possible triggers. Think about that. You know, the ones that occur for you happen over and over and over. So what's the most difficult part of managing difficult behavior for you? So just think about that for a moment. What's the most difficult part? How does it make you feel as a mom, as a woman, or a dad? I know exactly how it made me feel. I felt like just a crapper parent. I felt like the worst mom on the planet, and I felt total shame and guilt. And it was just awful. I would look in the mirror and I would think, you know, who the hell have you become? It was, I don't think I have to explain what it's like to you. I'm sure you know. So, you know, what are you putting up with in your life? What are you putting up with? How does this make you feel? I mean, this is hard stuff, right? This is hard stuff. How does it make you feel? What areas of your life does this impact? Hi, Crystal. Thanks for being here, not knowing how to discipline him. Yeah, it makes you feel terrible, doesn't it? You feel like you're, yeah, exactly, right? You feel like if you push, it's going to make things worse. Exactly. And so in the boot camp, we do it in a very different way. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. Thank you. Because people have said to me, I'm terrified of doing boot camp because if I do, my house is going to turn into a battle zone. Is that, Crystal, is that something that you've wondered about? And so here's the thing. The strategies I teach in boot camp are going to calm things right away, okay? And that does not mean that you're going to let your child get away with all kinds of crap. Emily, when my son talks to me as though he is the parent and I have to listen to him, he tries to use a tone of a husband or father. It makes me very upset. Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, of course it does. And so Crystal says, yes, of course. So I'm so glad that we're talking about this now because we're worried that if we make any kind of change, it's going to upset the apple cart. But here's the cool thing. No, it's not going to. It's going to calm things down through how you are showing up. And so we're going to take this from two different angles, okay? So I'm going to teach you skills that you can apply almost right away that are going to quiet your child's, they're going to de-escalate things and give you a new way to approach these things. And I'm going to help you work on your stress so that you're not as reactive because that's what happens, right? It's almost like someone pokes you with a pin and you go, ah, right? That's what happens. And, you know, our brains can even get wired in that way. Karen, getting into arguments with someone who's so literal. Yeah, and getting into these cyclical things, right? Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. For sure. These things are wickedly hard. And, you know, it's not like behavior is the only thing that we have to deal with during the day, right? We have, your son does that too. Yeah, well, I still deal with a tiny bit of that, not so much anymore, but yeah. So does this affect your relationship with your spouse? Do you have disagreements about how to manage things? Do you, if you work, you know, does this affect your performance at work? I know for me it did. What about your friends? Do you, I know I used to like do a disappearing trick where it was just, I felt so crappy about myself and what was going on at home that I would hide under a rock. I would just vaporize because I didn't want to tell the truth and I didn't want to tell a lie. You know, in either way, I just felt crappy about what was happening. Right? So how much energy does this difficult behavior consume? So let's say you have 10 units of energy over the course of a day, because we only have so much energy, right? If you have 10 units of energy, roughly speaking, how many units of that energy are you throwing out the window in trying to sort of push against this negative behavior? Any thoughts on that? Anybody want to hazard a guess? Over 5, under 5? I'm going to say for me it was probably at least 6.5 or 7. You know, I'd wake up with this pit feeling in my stomach and I'd cry at least a couple times a day. And then by the evening, I was so burnt out and wasted that I was just frazzled, just a, you know, hot mess, just a really horrible, nasty, awful hot mess. And so, you know, what if you could reduce this, say by 40%, Even 50% is possible. More is possible. It just depends on, you know, how much effort you put into this. It's not like it requires a ton of work. It's really just doing the doing. And so what would open up for you? What would be possible for you if you had 50% more of that energy left over for you at the end of the day? What could you do with that? You know, you could maybe see a friend. You could, you know, who knows? Oh yeah, yes, I go ghost, yeah. Oh, I so get it. Oh, I go ghost. I love that. Yeah, it consumes all of my energy because it's all you think about, right? I call it marinating. Oh my God, Emily, you've got 2 ASD children. God bless you. And you know what? Our children are miracles. They're wonderful. And we all do get through this in our own way. But you know what? It doesn't have to be so hard. It doesn't have to be so hard. It really doesn't. So, you know, here's the thing. There's, you know, either way, there's a cost, right? There is a monetary cost. I'm going to talk about the other aspect of cost, okay? So this is the downside, right? So there's also a cost associated with not taking action, right? Because you're stuck in the same stuck place. You know, it's like Groundhog Day, isn't it? If you don't make change, then there will be no change, right? So I've taken, you know, my 14 years of experience, and I've really boiled it down to all of the relevant information that relates to limit setting, learning how not to nag, how to create more of what you want to see through using positive praise and effective praise. Understanding and shifting these negative repetitive behavior patterns, understanding ASD as a neurodevelopmental challenge, okay? Self-care, we work on self-care. What else am I missing here? Yeah, getting your child to think, not just comply. Okay, yeah, we want our kids to comply, but we don't want them to be, you know, zombies who just say, okay, okay, right? We want them to think for themselves, don't we? We want them to be able to manage in the real world. Okay, what am I missing? Yeah, how to communicate more by saying less. You know, this is pretty cool stuff. And it's stuff that, you know, Karen and I were talking about this the other day. I don't think there's anyone else doing what I'm doing. I really don't. And so I want you to learn this, you know, and if you've got concerns, I want to hear them, but I don't want you to do nothing and expect things to change, because you're going to be disappointed. And that really makes me sad, because that's no way to live, right? I want you to have a more positive relationship with your child. All right. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and I'll be back here. Will I be back here next Thursday? I think I will. I might not be, though, because I think I'm going to be away. Yeah. Let me figure that out. Okay. Thanks for being here. I really love it when you guys are here live. Thank you so much. Bye for now.